Now we're going to explore the brush tool. Just a reminder, the face section is still an object. You can see it by the marquee. So I'd like to actually paint this as a shape, so I can either double click it to get into the edit mode, or I could break it apart. And I think I'm going to double click it for the sake of this exercise. So let me double click on there. Now if I highlight it, you see it responds just like a merge mode drawing because it's in the drawing object. So let me just deselect that for a second. Now I do have a fill color of blue. So let me go to my brush tool, select it, and you see some of my options appear at the bottom. Number 1, brush shape. I will keep that on round shape. Brush size, I'll keep it in sort of the middle range here. And then we have this interesting option, brush mode. Now you can see here we've got 5 modes: paint normal, paint fills, paint behind, paint selection, paint inside. So let's try each one of those. So let's start with paint normal, and I'll just scribble my brush across here. And you see it literally just covers up basically everything it encounters. Now I'm going to undo that, Command Z. I'll try the next mode down. Paint fills. So I would expect only my fills will get the blue, but the stroke will stay black. And it did. Now just because there was nothing outside, it still generates a fill, even though it goes beyond that border. But it does not affect the stroke one bit. So let me undo that as well. And we'll try the next one down. Paint behind. I can imagine what's going to happen here. It will only paint behind this element. And true enough, the impression is that it's behind there. Okay, undo that. We'll try the next one down. Paint selection. Now nothing is selected right now, so let me just show you. If nothing is selected, it doesn't paint anything. So let me go up to my selection tool. Highlight the fill only and not the stroke. Go back to my brush tool. Paint selection. And start to paint like that. And you see how that only paints what's selected. So let me undo that for a second. Back to my selection tool. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to double click on this fill, which will highlight the stroke as well. And let's try that again. Brush tool. Paint selection. So remember, the fill and the stroke have been selected right now. And because it's a brush tool, it's actually not going to fill the stroke. It's only going to fill the fill, which makes good sense. But I wanted to show you how that worked. Okay, I'm going to undo that again. I'm going to deselect by clicking away from anything. And we'll go to our brush tool once more. And we will choose Paint Inside. And you can see what happens there. It simply paints what's inside of the shape. Inside of the closed shape, rather. It does not affect the stroke, as you can see here. So I'm going to undo all of those. Now you see I'm in drawing object mode. It is a little bit different if you're drawing on a object drawing when you're not in drawing object. So let me click the blue arrow and go back up to the top level. And we'll quickly try all of these again. So I'll go Paint Inside. I'll start from the bottom and work my way back up. Paint Inside. It doesn't take because again it's in object mode, so it's not seeing that. It's funny because some of these will work. So Paint Selection, because I'm currently selected, let's see what happens here. So it does paint the selection and it does paint the fill section only. So I'm going to undo that. I do invite you to explore these and get familiar with these various modes. Paint behind, as expected. Okay, undo. Paint fills. Again, because this was an object, it saw it as an object and not as a merged drawing, so it didn't paint the fill inside the object. It only painted the empty area and created a new fill. And then finally paint normal. Again, same thing. So really when you're in object mode, it's very limited with the brush tool what you can do. I recommend, I'll undo that, I recommend going with your selection tool, double clicking on the object so that you're in the drawing object level, and then it's like a merged drawing, as you can see. And then I go back to my brush tool and paint normal. Simply paints over everything, including the stroke. And I believe that's the only mode that will paint over the stroke, if I'm not mistaken. Undo that, and you can see here that all of these will manifest. So again, you'd think paint fills would only paint the fill of the object, but it actually creates a new fill in the empty area. So I'm going to undo that. Now if I select the object, double click it, go to my brush tool, go paint fills, still does it. Let me undo that. So if you only want to paint inside of the shape, you need to go on your brush tool and select paint inside. Now that was interesting. You notice how I started outside of the shape and it didn't encroach the shape. Let me undo that and let me show you if I start inside the shape. Very subtle, but it does make a difference where your starting point is. So let me undo those. Again, paint inside. If I start inside the shape, it paints it. If I start outside the shape, it considers all of this empty space the inside, if you will. And there we have it. So that's the brush tool. It does have 5 modes that you need to get used to. Now currently we have 2 object mode drawings on the stage. We've got the face and the hat. When they're in this mode, we can arrange their stacking order, if you will, and you can see that the hat covers the face, so it's in the front. If I want to push that to the back, I can simply highlight it, go modify, arrange, either bring send to back or send backwards. Send backward will send it incrementally one item at a time behind, where send to back shoots it all the way to the back. So there's only 2 items this time, so they would both do the same thing. Let me just choose send to back. You can see now that it is behind the face. If I select the face and go send to back, modify, arrange, send to back, again it pushes it to the back of the order. So that's how we affect the stacking order on object mode drawings. So again, highlight the object, modify, arrange, send to back, or bring forward, whatever the case may be. And that's how we affect the stacking order, within a single layer, of course. Okay, we've used the rectangle tool, we've used an oval tool, we've used the drawing tools, but underneath the rectangle tool there's another one called the Polystar tool. Let's just take a quick look at that. That can do a few things. It can do, obviously we'll do polygons, and if I click and drag, you can see a 5-sided shape there. And it will rotate according to how I spin that drawing, and it will assume the size. You notice it's also assuming the fill and the stroke properties of whatever is currently set. Now I can always go in and highlight those and edit those in the properties window, but let me just show you first how you can set the polygon settings itself from polygon to star and how many points it will generate. So making sure that I'm on my polygon tool, I'll just pop open my properties. And you notice here there's a setting called Tool Settings. So I'll just click on that Options button. And under Style I have the choice of Polygon or Star. And from here I can specify certain parameters. So number of sides, let's say I wanted a 10-point star. I click OK. And then once I start drawing, there's my 10-point starburst. So if I want to change that, I'll go up back to my properties, click on options, I'll go back to 5-point star, star point size. So this also affects the distance from the point to the valley, if you will. If I put 0.2, it should be a shallower star, or actually more extreme. Sorry, more extreme. So the higher the number, the more shallow that will be. And let me just try that. So options. So let's just say 0.9. Click OK. And you can see there it's a very kind of a fat star. Go back up. Change that to 0.5, which was the default setting. And that means halfway between the center and the edge is where this little valley will manifest itself. There you go. Again, if I want to create polygons, go to my options, change it from star to polygon. There we go. If I want more points on my polygon, more sides, I'll go 8 sides, make it an octagon. There we go. There's your down and dirty stop sign. And so on. So that's the polygon tool. Okay, at this point we're going to explore the eraser tool. So I will start a new file. I'll go Command N, ActionScript 3, click OK. I'm just going to go fit it window so I can see my whole stage area. Go to my oval tool. I'll draw a very large oval on the screen. I'll stick with these colors, the blue fill and the black stroke. And I'll hold my shift key down to constrain it to be a perfect circle, if you will. Now I will select the eraser tool. I'll select a small brush size. I want to demonstrate the faucet. I noticed it was on, so I had clicked it off. When it's gray, it's on. When it's not gray, it's off. So what I want to do is I want to draw basically a circle within this circle and then punch the hole out. And we use the faucet tool to punch out the hole. So let me just draw a crude circle here. And then with my faucet tool, I can go in and I can click on that inside part and it punches it out. Basically the faucet tool will delete the whole section of the fill. So if I were to click on this, it would also delete that too. I'm going to undo that though. Now there are different modes, again, similar to the brush tool, very similar in fact to the brush tool. Eraser mode. So erase normal, erase fills, erase lines, erase selected fills, erase inside. Almost exactly the same way the brush tool works. So let me just quickly go through these. Erase fills. I'm going to increase my brush size at this point. And there we go. The stroke was not affected, only the fill was affected. Erase lines. This should simply erase the stroke and not the fill. And there you have it. Next one down on my list. Erase selected fills. So in fact I do need to make a selection. So I'll go with my selection tool. And this is a raw shape. So when I select it, only the area selected will be highlighted. Therefore this dotted square area is the selected area. Go back to my eraser tool. Make sure it's still on erase selected fills. And when I go in here, it should only erase within that area that I've highlighted. And you can see that it's doing exactly that. So you can really get precision when you get used to how to use these tools. Now the last setting we have here is called Erase Inside. And I believe you need to click inside the fill area. It'll basically erase the fill area only, but it needs to start where you initiate your first click. So you can see there, it only erases the fill inside. If I was to start it outside the line, let's see what would happen. See, it doesn't actually engage. So you need to click inside the shape in order to have this mode work. Okay? And there you have it. Those are the main features of the eraser tool. Okay, at this point I'd like to explore some of the copy and paste features for drawing objects. I'm going to just draw a couple more objects on the stage here. I'll change my fill color. And I'll use the oval tool. And I'll draw an oval up in the corner here. Maybe I'll change that color a bit. We'll draw something down here. And we'll do a rectangle over here. Okay. So, very simple. I'm going to my selection tool. I will double click the object I want to copy and paste. Edit Copy, or Command C on the Mac, Control C on the PC. And then I'll go back up here and you can see we have two choices basically. Paste in center and paste in place. Paste in center puts it at the center of your stage. Paste in place, which is very, very valuable to me, actually pastes it in the exact same position that it was derived from. So let's just try first paste in center. And as I explained, it appears in the center. While it's still highlighted, I can move it around, but once I deselect, it will merge. So if I deselect, you see how now that has merged. I'm going to undo and leave that there. Okay, now I'm going to try the little green circle. I'll double click it, edit copy, Command C on the Mac, Control C on the PC, and do a paste in place. Now it might not seem obvious that it's happened because it's going to be in the exact same spot, but I will drag it out of the way so that you will see the one underneath it. So let's just try that. Edit, paste in place. And as I said, it doesn't appear that anything happened, but when I move this, you can see there's the other original right underneath it. So to assume the exact same coordinates on the stage that it was copied from. And for me, that's a very valuable, potent feature in the copy and paste in Flash. So there you have the copy and paste of drawn objects in Flash CS5.